Everyone mocked the intern who helped the fallen old man, not knowing he was the CEO's father. Celine Johnson smoothed down the red gown one more time, her reflection staring back from the polished elevator doors. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind. First impressions, baby girl. You wear your Sunday best on important days. This was the most important day of her life. 26 years old. First day as an intern at Northbridge Capital. The culmination of every sacrifice. Every night her mama worked double shifts. Every prayer whispered over her daddy's grave since she was 5 years old. But standing in the marble lobby surrounded by 11 other interns, all crisp and corporate in their black suits and neutral blazers, Celine felt the weight of being different. The red gown, beautiful and carefully chosen, suddenly felt like a spotlight on everything that made her stand out. Nice dress, a blonde girl named Maya whispered, her smile not reaching her eyes. Didn't you get the email about business professional? Celine's throat tightened. This is professional, it's just... The elevator chimed. What happened next occurred in the space between one breath and the next. An elderly man, distinguished in his charcoal suit with silver hair perfectly combed, had been standing closest to the elevator doors. Charles Milton, though Celine didn't know his name yet, had been checking his watch, probably running late for something important. The doors slid open. He took one step forward, and then he crumpled, his body folded like paper, knees buckling, one hand reaching for the elevator frame but finding only air. The sound of his body hitting the marble floor echoed through the lobby like a gunshot. Celine moved on instinct. She dropped her portfolio, her new employee badge swinging wildly on its lanyard as she ran the 15 feet to his side. Her red gown fanned out as she knelt beside him, heedless of the cold floor, heedless of everything except the elderly man whose eyes had rolled back, whose breath came in shallow gasps. Sir, can you hear me? Someone call 911. The other interns stood frozen. Maya had her phone out, but she wasn't calling for help. She was recording. Oh my God! Someone gasped. Did she push him? Celine's head snapped up. What? No! She was right behind him, another intern said. I saw her moving toward him right before he fell. She's the only one near him, Maya added, her phone still recording. This is insane. A security guard rushed over, his hand already on his radio. Miss, I need you to step back. He needs help. Celine's voice cracked. He's barely breathing. Why is no one helping him? The elderly man's eyes fluttered open, unfocused, confused, afraid. His trembling hand reached up, grasping weakly at Celine's sleeve. My son, he whispered, so faint she had to lean in close. Kelly? Tell Kelly. Shoo, save your strength. Help is coming. I promise you're going to be okay. Celine held his hand, her own tears falling freely now. She's probably staging this, someone muttered. Trying to get attention on her first day. In that red dress? Definitely looking for attention. Maya's voice cut through, sharp and cruel. The other interns, all 10 of them in their perfect professional attire, stood in a semicircle, watching, judging, recording. Not one of them knelt down to help. Not one. Paramedics arrived 7 minutes later, though it felt like hours. As they loaded Charles Milton onto the stretcher, a building manager appeared, his face stern. Miss, I'm going to need you to come with me. There's been an accusation. Celine's world tilted. Her first day, her fresh start, everything she'd worked for, crumbling like the elderly man had crumbled. But as they led her away, as whispers followed her like ghosts, as her beautiful red gown, now wrinkled and stained at the knees, marked her as different in all the wrong ways, Celine Johnson couldn't have known several things. She couldn't have known that the man whose hand she'd held was Charles Milton, father of Kelly Milton, the CEO whose name was etched on the building's cornerstone. She couldn't have known that a hidden security camera had captured every single second from an angle that would prove the truth. And she couldn't have known that this moment, this terrible, humiliating, devastating moment, was actually the beginning of the most extraordinary chapter of her life. Sometimes the universe tests us in the cruelest ways, not to break us, but to reveal who we truly are when the whole world is watching. This is the story of Celine Johnson, a girl in a red dress who chose compassion over self-preservation, and how that choice, made in front of an elevator on what should have been her first day, became the moment everything changed. What you're about to hear will restore your faith in the power of kindness, the triumph of truth, and the unexpected ways that doing the right thing can rewrite your entire story. Stay with me. You need to hear this. Before we proceed, permit me to welcome you, my lovely family, to another heartwarming story. If you're new here, we wholeheartedly welcome you. To cement your place in this community, please hit the subscribe button now. Don't also forget to hit the notification icon bell to ensure you are the first to see our new story tomorrow. To understand why Celine Johnson didn't hesitate, why she ran toward trouble instead of away from it, you have to go back 21 years. Back to a small apartment in Englewood, Chicago, where a 5-year-old girl learned the most important lesson of her life. It was a Tuesday afternoon in July, the kind of summer day where the heat rises from the pavement in waves and the fire hydrants run open for the neighborhood kids. Little Celine sat on the front steps, her hair in 2 neat braids her mother had plaited that morning, waiting for her daddy to come home from his shift at the factory. Marcus Johnson wasn't a rich man. He wasn't famous or powerful. He worked the assembly line at a manufacturing plant on the south side, his hands calloused from honest work, his smile always warm despite the burden of bills he could barely pay. But Marcus Johnson had something money couldn't buy. He had character. Celine watched as her father rounded the corner, his lunch pail swinging at his side. But he wasn't alone. Mr. Patterson, the elderly man from 3B, struggled with 2 heavy bags of groceries, his weathered hands shaking from the weight. What happened next was simple, but it would echo through Celine's entire life. Marcus Johnson, exhausted from a 10-hour shift, didn't hesitate. He jogged over to Mr. Patterson, took both bags without asking, and carried them up 3 flights of stairs to the old man's apartment. When he came back down, little Celine tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy, why do you help Mr. Patterson? He never says thank you." Her father knelt down, his strong hands gentle on her small shoulders, his eyes serious but kind. "Baby girl, we don't help people because they say thank you. We help people because it's right. You see an elder struggling, you help. You see someone fall, you pick them up. That's what being human means. Promise me, Celine. Promise me you'll remember that." She promised. 3 weeks later, Marcus Johnson was gone. A massive heart attack at the factory. No warning. No goodbye. Just a phone call that shattered their world into before and after. The funeral was small. Celine, too young to fully understand that forever meant forever, kept asking when Daddy was coming home. Her mother, Denise Johnson, held her close and wept silent tears that seemed endless. But here's what Celine remembered most about that day. Mr. Patterson showed up. The old man from 3B, leaning heavily on his cane, stood in the back of the church. After the service, he approached them with tears streaming down his weathered face. "Your husband helped me every single week," he told Denise. "Never asked for anything, just did it because it was right. That's rare. That's really rare in this world." He pressed something into little Celine's hand. A $20 bill, probably all he had. "You remember your daddy, little one. You remember what he taught you." She did. God, she did. Growing up without Marcus Johnson wasn't easy. Denise worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, cleaning offices at night and working retail during the day. There were months they survived on ramen noodles and hope. Months when the electricity got shut off and they used candles. Months when new school clothes meant shopping at Goodwill and pretending not to care when the other kids noticed. But Denise made sure Celine understood something crucial. Poverty was their circumstance, not their identity. They were broke, not broken. Your daddy believed in helping people, Denise told her daughter during those long, difficult years. Don't let this world make you hard, baby. Don't let it take that from you. So Celine didn't. At 12, she helped Mrs. Chun from the corner store carry her groceries every Saturday. At 15, she volunteered at the senior center, reading to elderly residents with failing eyesight. At 17, she gave up her part-time paycheck to help an elderly homeless veteran get a hot meal and a motel room, even though she'd been saving for months for a homecoming dress. Her classmates called her naive, too nice, pushover. But Celine knew something they didn't. She knew that every time she helped an elderly person, she was keeping her father alive. Every hand she held, every burden she carried, every moment she chose compassion over convenience. She was honoring the man who had taught her what it meant to be human. High school was a blur of advanced placement classes she attacked with ferocious determination and part-time jobs that kept the lights on at home. She graduated with a 3.7 GPA, good enough for community college but not good enough for the scholarships that could have taken her to a 4-year university. So she did what she had to do. She worked full-time at a diner called Rosie's, slinging hash browns and coffee from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m., then attended evening classes at Southside Community College. For 4 years, this was her life. Sleep was a luxury she couldn't afford. Social life was non-existent. Dating was a fantasy for people who had time. But she persisted. There were nights she fell asleep over her accounting textbooks, waking up with numbers imprinted on her cheek. At night, she cried from exhaustion and wondered if she'd ever make it out. At night, she visited her father's grave and whispered, "Am I making you proud, Daddy? Am I doing it right?" In her junior year, something happened that almost broke her. An elderly regular at Rosie's, Mr. DeWitt, collapsed in the bathroom. Celine found him, called 911, and stayed with him until the paramedics arrived, missing her shift and getting written up by her manager. Mr. DeWitt survived, but Celine lost hours she desperately needed. Her coworker, a girl named Shanice, shook her head. "Girl, you gotta stop saving everybody. Ain't nobody gonna save you." Maybe Shanice was right. Maybe Celine was a fool. But she couldn't stop. It was wired into her DNA. A promise made to a father she could barely remember but would never forget. She graduated from community college at 24 with an associate degree in business administration. It took her 6 years instead of 2. 6 years of sacrifice, struggle, and refusing to quit. But an associate degree in business from a community college wasn't enough. Not for the corporate world. Not for the jobs that could actually change her life. She needed more. So she pushed forward, enrolling in a bachelor's program at Chicago State University. 2 more years. 2 more years of the same grind. Except now the stakes felt higher and the finish line felt further away. She was 26 when she finally walked across that stage, accepting her bachelor's degree in business management. Her mother sat in the audience, tears streaming down her face, holding a framed photo of Marcus Johnson so he could see his baby girl graduate. That night, Celine visited her father's grave. The headstone was simple, worn by 21 Chicago winters. She knelt in the grass, not caring about the mud on her thrift store dress. "I did it, Daddy. I graduated, and I got an internship at Northbridge Capital. It's one of the biggest firms in the city. I know it's just an internship, I know I'm starting at the bottom, but it's a chance. It's finally a chance. She paused, touching the cold stone. And Daddy? I'm still helping people. Just like you taught me. I promise I'll never stop. The wind rustled through the cemetery trees, and for just a moment, Celine could have sworn she felt her father's presence, proud and protective, like a hand on her shoulder. 3 weeks later, she stood in front of her mirror in her small studio apartment, looking at the red gown. It was the nicest thing she'd ever owned. Her grandmother had worn it to church for years before passing it down, convinced that Celine would need something beautiful for important moments. Wear your Sunday best on important days, baby girl. Tomorrow was the most important day of her life. Tomorrow, she would walk into Northbridge Capital as an intern. Tomorrow, everything would change. She just didn't know how much. The security office at Northbridge Capital was nothing like Celine had imagined her first day would go. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in a harsh, unforgiving glow. She sat in a hard plastic chair, her red gown wrinkled and stained at the knees, her new employee badge sitting on the metal table like evidence at a crime scene. 2 security guards stood by the door. A building manager named Richard Thorpe sat across from her, his expression neutral but his eyes judgmental. And Maya, the blonde intern who'd been so quick to record everything, had been asked to stay and give a statement. Miss Johnson, Thorpe began, his voice clipped and professional. Can you explain what happened at the elevator? Celine's hands shook in her lap. The elderly man collapsed. I tried to help him. That's all. I just tried to help. Several witnesses say you were moving toward him right before he fell. I was walking to the elevator. We all were. It was time to go upstairs for orientation. Thorpe made a note on his tablet. And yet you were the only one close enough to him when he collapsed. Because I ran to help him. Celine's voice cracked. Everyone else just stood there. Maya shifted in her seat, uncomfortable but not uncomfortable enough to speak up, not uncomfortable enough to tell the truth. A woman in a sharp pantsuit entered the room. Patricia Brennan, head of human resources, her title announced by the severity of her expression. Miss Johnson, I'm sure you understand the seriousness of this situation. A prominent member of our corporate family has been injured on company property, and there are questions about your involvement. I didn't hurt him. I would never. I was just trying to help. Your intentions may have been good, but your actions are under review. Multiple interns reported that you made physical contact with Mr. Milton before he collapsed. That's not true. Celine stood up, tears streaming down her face now. I didn't touch him until after he fell. Ask him. When he wakes up, ask him. Patricia's expression didn't soften. Mr. Milton is currently unconscious at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. We don't know when or if he'll be able to provide his account. In the meantime, we have to act on the information we have. Which is lies. Celine's voice rose, desperation making her bold. They're lying. Why would I hurt someone I don't even know? On my first day? That makes no sense. People do senseless things, Thorpe interjected. Sometimes for attention. The words hit Celine like a physical blow. Tension. They thought she'd hurt an old man for attention. They thought her red dress, her difference, her very presence was some kind of performance. I want to call my mother, Celine whispered. You're not under arrest, Miss Johnson. You're free to leave. However, your internship is suspended pending investigation. You'll need to surrender your badge and leave the premises. Suspended, first day. Not even first hour. Celine picked up her employee badge, the one she'd been so proud of just an hour ago. She placed it on the table, the small plastic rectangle feeling like the death of a dream. Can I at least know his name? The man I helped? Can someone tell me if he's okay? Patricia's expression flickered, something almost human crossing her face. Charles Milton. He's stable but unconscious. That's all I can tell you. Charles Milton. The name meant nothing to Celine. She had no idea who he was, no idea of his connection to the building, to the company, to everything. She walked out of Northbridge Capital at 10:17 a.m., less than 90 minutes after she'd walked in. The other interns, the ones in their perfect professional attire, watched from the lobby. Some looked sympathetic. Most looked relieved it wasn't them. Maya was already typing on her phone, probably sharing the drama with friends. Outside, the September sun felt too bright, too cheerful for the apocalypse of Celine's world. She walked 3 blocks before her legs gave out. She sat on a bench at a bus stop and finally let herself break. All those years, all that work, every sacrifice her mother made, every promise she'd whispered at her father's grave, gone, destroyed, because she'd done exactly what her father taught her to do. She'd helped someone who needed help. Her phone buzzed. Her mother. Baby? How's your first day? I've been praying all morning. Celine couldn't speak, couldn't form words. The sobs came in waves, raw and painful. Celine? Celine, what happened? Baby, talk to me. Mama, she finally managed. Mama, I lost it. I lost everything. 20 minutes later, Denise Johnson sat beside her daughter on that bus stop bench, holding her like she'd held her at 5 years old when the world had ended the first time. Tell me everything. So Celine did. Every detail. The elderly man collapsing. Her instinct to help. The accusations. The recording. The suspension. The looks. The judgment. The way her beautiful red dress had marked her as different, as wrong. Denise listened without interruption, her arm tight around her daughter's shoulders. When Celine finished, Denise was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice steady and sure. Did you do the right thing? Yes. Did you help that man? Yes. Then you hold your head up. You hear me, Celine Marie Johnson? You hold your head up. The truth has a way of coming out. Always does. And when it does, those people are going to have to look at what they did, what they accused, what they assumed. But Mama, what if the truth doesn't come out? What if he doesn't remember? What if he dies and they blame me? Then we get a lawyer we can't afford and we fight. But that man's not going to die, baby. And he's going to remember. You mark my words. People remember their angels. That afternoon, Celine lay in her small apartment, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment. The elderly man's face, his whispered words. My son, Kelly. The way his hand had grasped hers, trembling but trusting. Her phone buzzed constantly. Text messages from the other interns, most of them not kind. From Maya, girl, why did you do it? Was it worth it? From another intern, Jordan, crazy first day, huh? HR is doing a full investigation. From someone whose number she didn't recognize. You should have just left him. Now you're in trouble for being too nice. That's the world we live in. Maybe they were right. Maybe this was the world they lived in. A world where kindness was suspicious, where helping someone got you accused, where being different in a red dress made you guilty before proven innocent. But then Celine thought about her father. About Marcus Johnson carrying groceries for an old man who never said thank you. About his hands on her shoulders, his voice serious and kind. We don't help people because they say thank you. We help people because it's right. She pulled out her laptop and typed a single sentence in her journal. The journal she'd kept since she was 12. Today I did what Daddy taught me. Tomorrow the truth will prove it. She had no way of knowing that at that very moment, at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, Charles Milton was beginning to stir. That his eyes were fluttering open. that the first words out of his mouth would change everything. And she had no way of knowing that in a hospital corridor, a man named Kelly Milton was receiving a phone call that would send him racing to his father's bedside, where he would hear a story that would make his blood boil and his heart break. The truth was coming. It always does. And if you're wondering how this impossible situation could possibly turn around, you'll want to stay with us. Because what happens next proves that sometimes the worst moments in our lives are actually doorways to the best ones. The journey from this devastating low to an unbelievable high is something you need to see all the way through. Subscribe now so you don't miss any bit of it. Northwestern Memorial Hospital, September 14th, 7:42 p.m. Charles Milton's eyes opened to white ceiling tiles and the steady beep of monitors. His head throbbed. His chest ached. But he was alive. A nurse appeared at his side instantly, her smile professional but warm. "Mr. Milton, welcome back. You're at Northwestern Memorial. You had a syncopal episode. How are you feeling?" "My son," Charles croaked, his throat dry. "Kelly. Is Kelly here?" "He's on his way. He's been called." Charles closed his eyes, piecing together fragmented memories. The elevator, the sudden dizziness, the floor rushing up to meet him, and then a face. A young woman's face, brown eyes full of fear and determination. A splash of red, like a cardinal in snow. "The girl," he whispered. "There was a girl. She helped me." The nurse adjusted his fore. "Don't worry about that now, Mr. Milton. Just rest." But Charles Milton didn't rest. He couldn't, because as his mind cleared, the memory sharpened. The young woman in the red dress kneeling beside him. Her voice, steady and calm, cutting through his panic. "You're going to be okay." Her hand holding his, warm and sure. The way she'd stayed with him even as voices around her grew hostile and accusatory. 20 minutes later, Kelly Milton burst through the door, his face pale with worry. At 35, Kelly had his father's sharp features and his mother's intense blue eyes. He'd built Northbridge Capital from a mid-sized firm into one of Chicago's premier investment companies, but none of that mattered now. His father, his only living parent, was in a hospital bed. "Dad. Jesus. Dad, what happened?" Charles reached for his son's hand. "I'm okay, son. I'm okay. But we have a problem. The doctors said you collapsed at the building. Low blood pressure, dehydration. Dad, you've been working too hard again. I told you to slow down." "Kelly, listen to me. There was a young woman. She helped me. Dark skin, beautiful red dress. She was there when I fell. She called for help. She stayed with me." Kelly's jaw tightened. He pulled out his phone, scrolling quickly. "Dad, there's been an incident report filed. Security has someone in custody." "What? Who?" "An intern. They think they're investigating whether she might have caused your fall. Several witnesses placed her near you right before you collapsed." Charles tried to sit up, groaning with the effort. No, that's wrong. She didn't cause anything. She saved me. I was already falling when she ran over. She helped me." Kelly's expression shifted from worry to something harder. Anger. "Are you absolutely certain?" "Son, when you're 73 years old and you're lying on the ground wondering if you're dying, you remember the face of the person who tells you you're going to be okay. That girl, she was my angel. And from what I could hear, people were accusing her. They were recording her. They were... God, Kelly, what have they done to her?" Kelly Milton was already on his phone, calling Patricia Brennan. She answered on the second ring. "Patricia, it's Kelly. My father's awake, and he says the intern didn't cause his fall. She helped him. I need you to review every second of security footage from that elevator bay. And I need the name of the intern who helped him. There was a pause on the other end. Mr. Milton, the intern's name is Celine Johnson. She was suspended pending investigation. The footage is being reviewed, but several witnesses corroborated that she was. I don't care what they corroborated. My father, the man who was actually there, says she helped him. Find her, and find out which camera angles we have. Kelly hung up and turned back to his father. Tell me everything you remember. Charles did. Every detail. The sudden dizziness. The world tilting. The sound of the elevator doors opening, mocking him with escape he couldn't reach. The fall. The cold marble against his cheek. The pain in his chest that made him think this was it. This was how it ended. And then her face. That young woman in red, appearing above him like something out of a dream. No hesitation. No fear. Just immediate, compassionate action. She held my hand, Kelly. Everyone else was shouting, recording, accusing, and she just held my hand and told me I was going to be okay. Her voice, it was the only thing keeping me conscious. I tried to tell her your name to make sure someone contacted you. I don't even know if she understood. Kelly's hands clenched into fists. His company, his building, his father, and they'd accused the one person who'd actually helped. I'll fix this, Dad. I promise you, I'll fix this. At 9:15 p.m., Kelly Milton stood in Northbridge Capital's security office, watching footage on 3 different screens. Patricia Brennan stood beside him, along with Richard Thorpe and the head of security, Marcus Chun. This is the main lobby camera, Chun explained, pulling up the first angle. You can see the interns gathered by the elevator bay. The woman in red is Celine Johnson. Kelly watched the screen. 11 interns in dark, professional attire, and one woman in a red dress that made her impossible to miss. She stood slightly apart from the others, looking uncertain, out of place. Now watch, Chun continued. Your father approaches the elevator. The doors open. He steps forward and Charles Milton collapsed. The footage was silent but devastating. His body simply gave out, knees buckling, gravity claiming him. And then Celine moved, while every other intern stood frozen. Phones coming up to record. Celine Johnson ran. Her red dress billowed as she closed the distance in seconds, dropping to her knees beside Charles without hesitation. Rewind it, Kelly said, his voice tight. Show me the moment before he fell. Chun rewound the footage, played it again, and again. She's 3 feet away from him when he collapses, Kelly observed. There's no physical contact. She doesn't push him. She doesn't touch him. She reacts after he's already falling. The witnesses said. Thorpe began. The witnesses were wrong. Kelly cut him off. Show me the other angles. The second camera, mounted in the corner of the lobby, showed the same story. Celine running to help. The other interns standing back. One of them, a blonde woman, raising her phone to record. Who is that? Kelly pointed at Maya. Maya Richardson, another intern in the same orientation group. She's recording instead of helping. They all are. The third camera was the crucial one. It was a new security installation, hidden in the elevator panel itself, designed to monitor for equipment failures. The angle captured everything in perfect, damning detail. Charles Milton, alone, reaching for the elevator. His hand going to his chest. His knees buckling. The collapse. And 3 full seconds later, Celine Johnson entering the frame, running to his aid. 3 seconds. An eternity in surveillance footage. Absolute proof. She's innocent, Patricia said quietly. Completely innocent. In fact, she's the only one who helped him. Kelly's jaw clenched so tight it ached. And you suspended her. On her first day. Based on what? The word of interns who were too busy recording to help a man who could have been dying. The room was silent. "Here's what's going to happen," Kelly said, his voice cold and controlled. "You're going to find Celine Johnson. You're going to apologize, and you're going to offer her a full-time position, not an internship. Full-time, with salary commensurate with her education and experience." "Mr. Milton," Patricia began, "I understand your gratitude, but we have protocols." Kelly turned to face her, and the look in his eyes made her stop mid-sentence. "My father could have died on that floor, and the only person who tried to save him is the one you punished. So no, Patricia, no protocols, no procedures. You're going to find her, you're going to tell her the truth, and you're going to make this right. Because if you don't, I will. And I guarantee you won't like my version of making it right." At 11:43 p.m., Celine's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, exhausted from crying, from explaining to her mother over and over that everything she'd worked for was gone. But something made her pick up. "Miss Johnson? This is Patricia Brennan from Northbridge Capital Human Resources." Celine's heart stopped. This was it. The official termination. The end. "I'm calling to inform you that the investigation into today's incident has been completed. The security footage has been reviewed, and Mr. Charles Milton has provided his statement. Miss Johnson, you have been fully exonerated. You will not be facing any charges or disciplinary action." Celine couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. "Furthermore, we would like you to return to Northbridge Capital tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., not as an intern. We're offering you a full-time position as a junior associate in our corporate strategy division. If you're interested, we can discuss the details in person." Is he okay? Mr. Milton? Is he okay?" Patricia's voice softened, something almost human breaking through. "He's recovering well. And Miss Johnson? He asked about you. He wanted to make sure you were all right. He called you his angel." After Patricia hung up, Celine sat in her dark apartment, phone still pressed to her ear, tears streaming down her face. Her father's voice echoed across 21 years. "You see someone fall, you pick them up. That's what being human means." She'd kept her promise. And somehow, impossibly, the universe had kept its promise to her. Celine stood outside Northbridge Capital at 8:45 a.m., 15 minutes early, wearing the same red dress. She'd considered wearing something else, something more conventional, something that wouldn't remind everyone of that terrible day. But then she'd remembered her grandmother's words. Never apologize for standing out when you were standing up for what's right. The red dress stayed. The lobby felt different this morning. The same marble floors, the same soaring ceiling, but Celine walked through it transformed. Not as someone accused, as someone vindicated. Patricia Brennan met her at the elevator bay, the exact spot where everything had changed. "Miss Johnson, thank you for coming." Patricia extended her hand, and Celine shook it, noting how the older woman's eyes held something that hadn't been there yesterday. Respect. Maybe even remorse. "Before we discuss your position, there are some people who'd like to see you." The elevator ride to the 23rd floor was silent. Celine watched the numbers climb, each one taking her higher into a world she'd never imagined accessing. The executive floor. This was where decisions that moved millions of dollars were made, where people in $1,000 suits shaped the future of companies, of industries, of lives. The elevator doors opened onto a reception area that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. Art that was probably worth more than Celine's entire education. A receptionist whose smile was professionally warm but genuinely kind. "Miss Johnson, they're waiting for you in Mr. Milton's office." Celine's legs felt weak. "Mr. Milton, the CEO." The man whose father she'd helped. This was real. This was actually happening. Patricia opened the double doors to an office that took Celine's breath away. But she barely noticed the view, the furniture, the markers of wealth and power. Because sitting in a chair near the window, looking far better than a man who'd collapsed yesterday had any right to look, was Charles Milton. And standing beside him, tall and striking with intense blue eyes and an expression that held 1,000 thoughts, was a younger man. Handsome in that way that made Celine glad she'd taken the time to fix her hair this morning, even through her nervousness. "Miss Johnson," Charles said, rising slowly, carefully. "Come in, please." Celine stepped forward, her hands clasped in front of her, unsure of protocol, unsure of everything. "This is my son, Kelly Milton. He's the CEO of Northbridge Capital." Kelly stepped forward, extending his hand. When Celine took it, she was surprised by the warmth of his grip, the way he held her hand a moment longer than necessary, like he was holding something precious. "Miss Johnson, Kelly paused, and Celine could see him struggling for words. "I owe you an apology. This company owes you an apology. What happened to you yesterday was unconscionable." "You didn't do anything wrong," Celine said softly. "I'm just glad your father is okay." Charles laughed, a sound that filled the room with unexpected warmth. "Didn't do anything wrong? Young lady, you saved my life." While everyone else stood there with their phones out like they were watching a reality show, you ran to help a complete stranger. Do you have any idea how rare that is? Celine felt tears prickling her eyes. "My father taught me to help people, especially elderly people. He said it was what being human meant." "Your father was a wise man," Charles said. "Is he? Can I meet him? I'd like to thank him for raising such an extraordinary daughter. He passed away when I was 5, but I try to honor him every day by doing what he taught me." The silence that followed was heavy with emotion. Kelly cleared his throat, looking away for a moment, and Celine caught the glisten in his eyes before he turned back. "Miss Johnson," Kelly said, "my father and I discussed your situation extensively last night. The footage has been reviewed. Everyone knows the truth now. You were innocent. More than innocent. You were heroic." "I wasn't heroic. I just did what anyone should do." "But they didn't," Charles interjected, his voice gentle but firm. 11 other interns stood there. You were the only one who ran. That means something. That means everything." Kelly moved to his desk, picking up a folder. "We'd like to offer you a position here at Northbridge Capital. Not an internship. A full-time role as junior associate in corporate strategy. Starting salary is $75,000 annually, with full benefits, and a signing bonus of $10,000 as..." He paused, clearly emotional. "As a thank you for saving my father's life." $75,000. Celine's mind went blank. That was more money than her mother made in 2 years working 2 jobs. That was the kind of money that changed lives, that paid off student loans, that moved families out of dangerous neighborhoods, that made dreams possible. Celine's voice broke. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Charles said with a smile. "Say yes, and let us show you that sometimes doing the right thing does get rewarded, even when the world tries to convince you otherwise." Celine looked at these 2 men, these strangers who had become something more in the span of a day. Charles, with his kind eyes and grateful smile. Kelly, watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch, like she was someone worth seeing. "Yes," she whispered, then stronger. "Yes, thank you. Thank you so much." Kelly's smile transformed his entire face. "Thank you, Miss Johnson, for everything. Please call me Celine." "Celine," Kelly repeated, and the way he said her name felt significant, like he was memorizing it, claiming it. "We're honored to have you here." Patricia, who'd been standing quietly by the door, stepped forward. "Celine, I owe you a personal apology. I should have investigated more thoroughly before suspending you. I allowed assumptions and pressure to override proper procedure. I'm deeply sorry." Celine looked at the woman who'd terminated her dreams just yesterday. She could be angry, had every right to be angry, but what would that solve? What would that honor? "Thank you for the apology, Ms. Brennan. I accept it." The relief on Patricia's face was visible. "Now," Charles said, "there's one more thing we need to address. Those other interns. The ones who accused you. What are we doing about them?" Kelly's expression hardened. "They've been called in for individual meetings. Maya Richardson, who led the accusations and filmed instead of helping, will be released from the program. We don't want employees who are more interested in going viral than in basic human decency." "And the others?" Charles pressed. "They'll complete their orientation, but they'll also be required to attend sensitivity training and ethics workshops. They need to understand that this company values character as much as credentials." Over the next hour, they discussed details. Celine's start date, Monday. Her office location, 14th floor with an actual window. Her responsibilities, working on corporate strategy initiatives, learning from senior associates, contributing to projects that mattered. Felt surreal. Yesterday she'd been accused, humiliated, destroyed. Today she was being offered more than she'd dreamed possible. As the meeting wound down, Charles touched Celine's arm gently. "My dear, can I tell you something?" "Of course, Mr. Milton." "Yesterday, when I was on that floor, I was scared. I'm 73 years old. I've lived a good life, but I wasn't ready for it to be over. And then you were there, your face above mine, your voice telling me I'd be okay, your hand holding mine. In that moment, you were everything good in this world. Everything I've tried to teach my son to value. Character, compassion, courage." He paused, his eyes misty. "You remind me why it's worth believing in people. Thank you for that. Thank you for being exactly who you are, even when the whole world was against you." Celine couldn't stop the tears now. They fell freely. 26 years of struggle and sacrifice and staying true to her father's memory, all culminating in this moment. This validation. This proof that her father had been right all along. Kelly walked her to the elevator when the meeting ended. They stood in the hallway, and Celine was acutely aware of how tall he was, how his presence seemed to fill the space. "Celine," he said, his voice low, "I meant what I said. Thank you. My father, he's all I have left. My mother passed 5 years ago. If something had happened to him, if you hadn't been there..." He stopped, collecting himself. "You gave me something I can never repay. But I'm going to try." The elevator dinged. "See you Monday?" Kelly said, extending his hand again. "See you Monday," Celine replied, shaking it, feeling that spark of connection that neither of them acknowledged but both of them felt. As the elevator descended, carrying Celine back down from the executive floor to ground level, she pulled out her phone. One text message to her mother. "Mama, I got the job. Full-time. More money than we've ever had. Daddy would be proud." The response came instantly. "He is proud, baby. He's looking down right now with the biggest smile. We did it. We did it." Celine stepped out of Northbridge Capital into the September morning, the sun bright and full of promise. People rushed past her, caught up in their own dramas, their own struggles. She stood still for a moment, letting it all wash over her. From accused to employed, from destroyed to vindicated, from mocked to celebrated. All because she'd kept a promise to a father she barely remembered. All because she'd chosen compassion over self-preservation. All because she'd been exactly who she was, red dress and all, in a world that tried to make her someone else. If you've stayed with us this far, you already know this story is something special. But this is just the beginning. What unfolds between Celine and Kelly, between the girl who helped and the man who was grateful, will remind you that real-life fairy tales do exist. You won't want to miss what happens next. So hit that subscribe button now. Monday morning, Celine walked into Northbridge Capital for the third time. But this time, everything was different. She wore a navy blazer and cream blouse she'd bought over the weekend, spending some of the signing bonus money her mother had insisted she use for proper work clothes. The red dress hung in her closet at home, a reminder of who she was and what she'd survived. The receptionist, a woman named Grace, smiled warmly. "Miss Johnson, welcome. Your badge is ready." The new badge felt heavier than the old one, more real. Instead of intern beneath her name, it read Junior Associate, Corporate Strategy. Her office on the 14th floor wasn't large, but it had a window, a real window overlooking the city. Celine stood in the doorway, taking it in. A desk, a chair, a bookshelf, a computer with her name already on a placard. Celine Johnson, Junior Associate. Nice, isn't it? She turned to find Kelly Milton leaning against the doorframe, coffee cup in hand, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe. But his smile was genuine, warm, and made her heart do something complicated. "It's perfect," Celine said honestly. "I keep thinking I'm going to wake up. You're awake, and you earned this." Kelly stepped into the office, looking around like he was seeing it for the first time too. "I know it's a lot, going from intern to associate. The workload will be challenging. But I have complete faith in you." "You don't even know me," Celine said, then immediately regretted it. Too honest, too real. But Kelly didn't seem put off. If anything, his expression softened. "I know the most important thing about you. I know you're someone who runs toward people who need help, even when everyone else runs away. Everything else, the skills, the experience, that can be taught. Character? That's innate. That's rare." He set a folder on her desk. "Your first assignment. Review these 3 investment proposals and give me your honest assessment. Not what you think I want to hear, what you actually think. I'm interested in your perspective." After he left, Celine sat at her desk, opened the folder, and began to cry. Not sad tears, overwhelmed tears, grateful tears. This was real. This was her life now. The first week was a blur of meetings, introductions, and learning curves so steep they felt vertical. Celine met the corporate strategy team. 5 senior associates, 2 VPs, and a managing director named Thomas Chun who'd been with the company for 15 years. Thomas took her under his wing immediately. "Kelly told me what you did for Charles," he said over lunch on her 3rd day. "That's the kind of person we need here. Someone who remembers that behind every spreadsheet, every deal, every transaction, there are real people with real lives." Celine learned quickly. She absorbed information like she'd absorbed it in college, with the desperation of someone who knew this opportunity might not come again. She stayed late, arrived early, took work home, studied investment strategies and market analyses until her eyes burned. But here's what surprised her. Kelly Milton checked on her. Regularly. He'd stop by her office with coffee. "You take it black, right?" He'd include her in meetings she probably shouldn't have been invited to yet. "I want your perspective, Celine. Don't hold back." He'd walk out of the building with her sometimes, even though he surely had better things to do than ride the elevator down with a junior associate. "How's your mother doing?" he asked one evening as they left together. "She's good. Still can't believe this is real." She's already planning how to spend money I haven't even earned yet. Celine laughed. Tell her congratulations. Tell her she raised an incredible daughter. The way Kelly looked at her when he said things like that made Celine's pulse race. But she pushed those thoughts away. He was the CEO. She was a brand new associate. There were power dynamics, professional boundaries, 1,000 reasons why the flutter in her chest was inappropriate. But the flutter didn't care about reasons. Charles Milton visited the office every week, officially retired but clearly unable to stay away completely. He always stopped by Celine's office, bringing her coffee from the fancy place across the street, asking about her mother, her life, her dreams. You know, Charles said one Thursday afternoon, settling into the chair across from her desk, my son hasn't smiled this much in years. Celine looked up from her computer, confused. Sir, Kelly, he's been different since you started here. Lighter. He comes in earlier, which I didn't think was possible. He stays later, but he's happy about it. Haven't seen him happy about work in a long time. He's a good boss. Very supportive. Charles chuckled, a knowing sound. He's a good man. Takes after his mother that way. She had a heart the size of Lake Michigan. Lost her too soon. Kelly buried himself in work after that. Built this whole empire to prove something to nobody but himself. He leaned forward, his eyes twinkling. Then you came along, reminded him what matters. Reminded him that there are still good people in the world. People worth knowing. Worth spending time with. Before Celine could respond, Kelly appeared in the doorway. Dad, are you bothering my employees? Just getting to know this delightful young woman. Celine, did you know my son plays piano? Classically trained. Mozart, Beethoven, the whole thing. Kelly's ears turned red. Actually red. The CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, blushing like a teenager. Dad, Celine doesn't need my life history. I think it's nice, Celine said, surprising herself. The piano, I always wanted to learn, but we couldn't afford lessons. I could teach you, Kelly said, then looked surprised he'd offered. If you wanted. Not teaching exactly. I just play sometimes in the executive lounge after hours. You could join me sometime. The air between them crackled with something Celine couldn't name but definitely felt. I'd like that, she heard herself say. Charles stood, grinning like he'd just closed a major deal. Well, I'll leave you two to discuss piano lessons. And Celine, that report you wrote on the Hanover Accusation? Brilliant. Truly brilliant. You've got instincts that can't be taught. After Charles left, Kelly lingered in the doorway. Sorry about my dad. He can be enthusiastic. He's wonderful. You're lucky to have him. I know. Especially after... Kelly paused. After almost losing him. I don't think I've properly thanked you, Celine. Not really. You gave me more time with my father. That's not something I can ever repay. You've already repaid it. This job, this opportunity. It's more than I ever dreamed. You deserve it. You deserve everything good. Their eyes met and held. Time stretched. The office sounds faded. There was just Kelly and Celine and something building between them that was becoming impossible to ignore. I should get back to work, Celine said, even though she didn't want to. Right? Yes. Work. Kelly didn't move. But Celine? That piano offer? It stands. Whenever you want. After he left, Celine sat at her desk, her hand over her racing heart, and thought about how her life had become completely unrecognizable in the span of 2 weeks. From accused to employed. From struggling to stable. From invisible to seen. And maybe, just maybe, from alone to something else entirely. The executive lounge at Northbridge Capital wasn't just a room. It was a sanctuary. Located on the 25th floor, it featured floor-to-ceiling windows, leather furniture that probably cost more than cars, and in the corner, a baby grand piano that looked like it belonged in a concert hall. Celine stood in the doorway at 7:30 p.m. on a Tuesday evening, 3 weeks into her new position, wondering if this was a mistake. Kelly sat at the piano, his jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up, playing something beautiful and melancholy that made her chest ache. He hadn't noticed her yet, lost in the music, and Celine took a moment to just watch him. This was Kelly Milton outside of CEO mode. Vulnerable, human, real. She must have made a sound because he looked up, his fingers stilling on the keys. His face transformed when he saw her. Celine, you came. I hope it's okay. You said. It's more than okay. Come in, please. Celine walked to the piano, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. Kelly slid over on the bench, patting the space beside him. She sat, hyper-aware of his proximity, the warmth of him, the faint scent of his cologne. What were you playing? She asked. Chopin, Nocturne in E-flat major. My mother's favorite. His fingers drifted over the keys, not quite pressing them. I play it when I miss her. Sounds morbid, I know. It sounds like love. Kelly looked at her, really looked at her, and Celine felt exposed in the best and most terrifying way. Give me your hand, he said softly. She did. He positioned her fingers on the keys. These 3 notes, just press them together. She did. The chord rang out rich and full. That's C major, the happiest chord in music. He moved her fingers. Now these 3, E minor. Hear the difference. Same notes, different order. Suddenly it's sad. They played together, Kelly guiding her through simple progressions, his hand over hers, teaching her the language of music. Time dissolved. The city lights sparkled below, and something shifted between them, subtle but seismic. Why did you really offer to teach me? Celine asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Kelly's hand stilled over hers. Honestly, because I wanted to spend time with you, away from the office, away from the roles we play, just us. Kelly, I work for you. This is... I know it's complicated. I know there are rules and policies and 1,000 reasons why this is inappropriate. He turned to face her fully. But Celine, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since that day in the plaza. Not because you saved my father, though I'm grateful beyond words, but because of who you are, the way you see the world, the way you refused to become bitter even when you had every right to be, the way you light up a room without trying. Celine's breath caught. You're my boss. I know. And if you're uncomfortable, if this crosses a line, tell me and I'll stop. We'll be nothing but professional. I promise. I didn't say I was uncomfortable. The air between them crackled. Kelly's eyes searched hers, looking for permission, for confirmation, for something Celine wasn't sure she should give but desperately wanted to. What are you saying? He asked. I'm saying. Celine took a breath, gathering courage from somewhere deep. I'm saying I think about you too. I'm saying this is complicated and probably a terrible idea. But I'm saying I want to keep coming to these piano lessons. Kelly's smile was slow and devastating. Then let's keep it between us for now. No pressure. No expectations. Just 2 people who what? Who are discovering they really enjoy each other's company. Over the next month, the piano lessons became sacred. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, after most of the staff had gone home, Celine would take the elevator to the 25th floor. Kelly would be there waiting, and they'd sit at that piano and talk about everything. He told her about his ex-wife, a woman who'd married his potential rather than his person. About the divorce 3 years ago that left him hollow. About building Northbridge Capital as a way to prove his worth to a father who'd never doubted him in the first place. She told him about her father, about being 5 years old and learning what loss meant. About her mother's strength, working jobs that broke her body but never her spirit. About feeling invisible for so long that being seen by Kelly felt like coming up for air after being underwater. They talked about music, movies, and books. About Chicago and places they wanted to travel. About dreams they'd had as children and dreams they were building as adults. And slowly, carefully, they fell in love. Neither of them said it. Neither of them acknowledged what was happening. But it was there in every glance that lasted too long. Every touch that lingered. Every goodbye felt harder than the last. The office noticed, of course. Office politics being what they were, people talked. The CEO's favorite, she heard someone whisper in the break room. Must be nice, saving his father and getting special treatment. Another voice added. Celine tried not to let it bother her. She worked harder, stayed later, and produced results that spoke louder than gossip. Her performance reviews were exceptional. Her contributions to projects, measurable and valuable. But the whispers hurt. They made her question everything. Was she actually good at her job? Or was she just Kelly's charity case? One evening, 6 weeks into their piano lessons, Kelly found her crying in her office. Everyone else had gone home. She thought she was alone. Celine? What's wrong? She wiped her eyes quickly. Nothing. I'm fine. He closed the door, sat across from her. You're a terrible liar. Talk to me. So she did. About the whispers, the looks, the implication that she didn't deserve her position, that she was there because of him rather than her abilities. Kelly's expression darkened with anger, but his voice stayed gentle. You know that's not true, right? You've exceeded every expectation. Thomas told me yesterday you're the best junior associate he's worked with in 10 years. But they don't see that. They just see you stopping by my office, us leaving together. They're making assumptions. Then let them assume. Celine looked up, shocked. What? Kelly leaned forward, his eyes intense. Let them assume. Let them talk. Because Celine, I don't care anymore. I don't care what they think. Care about you. Care about us. Whatever this is, whatever it's becoming, it's real. And I'm tired of pretending it's not. Kelly, I'm not asking you to decide anything tonight. I'm just asking you to know that what I feel for you isn't gratitude. It's not pity, not guilt. He paused, choosing his words carefully. It's everything I've been afraid to feel for the last 3 years. And it's terrifying. And it's wonderful. And it's real. Celine's heart hammered. This was the moment. The line they'd been dancing around for weeks. Once they crossed it, there was no going back. What do we do? She whispered. We will be honest. With ourselves. With each other. And eventually with everyone else. But right now, right this moment, I need to know. Do you feel this too? Or am I completely misreading everything? Celine stood, walked around her desk, and did something she'd been wanting to do for weeks. She kissed him. It was gentle, tentative, a question in physical form. Kelly's answer was to pull her closer, to kiss her back with a tenderness that made her knees weak, to hold her like she was precious, valuable, worth everything. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Kelly rested his forehead against hers. We're doing this? He asked. We're doing this. It's going to be complicated. I know. People will talk. Let them. Kelly laughed, a sound of pure joy. When did you get so brave? I learned from my father. And I was reminded by a man who runs a company and plays piano and sees me for exactly who I am. They stood there in her office, holding each other, the city lights twinkling below, and let themselves acknowledge what had been building since that terrible, wonderful day at the elevator. Love, complicated and unexpected and absolutely real. Stories like this don't come along often. Real love born from real sacrifice. Real connection built on real character. And trust me, what's coming next will make your heart swell. If you're invested in Celine and Kelly's journey, and I know you are, you'll want to see this through to the beautiful ending. Stay with us by hitting that subscribe button now. 3 months into their relationship, Kelly invited Celine to Sunday dinner at his father's house. Not as his employee, as his girlfriend. The word still felt foreign on her tongue, too big and too small all at once. But when Kelly said it, when he introduced her to people at company events with, "This is Celine, my girlfriend," it felt right. Charles Milton's home in Lincoln Park was exactly what Celine expected. Elegant, tasteful, and warm in ways that money couldn't buy. Photos lined the walls. Kelly as a child. Kelly with his mother, a beautiful woman with kind eyes. Family moments frozen in time. "She would have loved you," Charles said, catching Celine looking at a photo of Kelly's mother. Rebecca. She always said Kelly needed someone who saw him, not his accomplishments. Someone who'd run toward trouble instead of away from it. She sounds amazing. She was. Lost her to cancer 5 years ago. Thought it would break us. But we survived. You learn what matters when you lose someone irreplaceable. You learn not to waste time on things that don't matter. He turned to Celine, his eyes knowing. "My son is falling in love with you. Maybe already has. He hasn't said it yet, because he's cautious that way. But I see it. And I want you to know you have my blessing. Not that you need it, but you have it." Dinner was intimate. Just the 3 of them. Kelly cooked, surprisingly, making pasta from scratch while Celine and Charles sat at the kitchen island, drinking wine and talking. "He does this when he's nervous," Charles Stage whispered. "Cooks. Controls what he can control." "I'm not nervous," Kelly protested. But his ears were red again, which tells that Celine had learned to love. "Son, you've changed clothes 3 times. You're nervous." After dinner, Kelly took Celine's hand. "Want to see something?" He led her upstairs to his childhood room, preserved like a museum. Trophies from piano competitions. Books lining shelves. A window seat overlooking the backyard. "I used to sit here and wonder what my life would look like," Kelly said, sitting on the window seat, pulling Celine down beside him. "Who I'd become. What would matter. I had all these grand plans. Build a company. Make money. Prove something. You did all that." "I did. And I was miserable. Successful and miserable. Until what?" He turned to her, his blue eyes intense in the dim light. "Until a woman in a red dress ran toward my father instead of away. Until character met gratitude. Until I realized I'd been chasing the wrong things all along." Kelly took her hands, holding them gently. "Celine, these last few months have been the best of my life. Not because of the company or deals or any of that. Because of you. Because of who I am when I'm with you. I'm better. I'm real. I'm yourself. Yes, exactly myself. And I know it's only been a few months. I know we should probably wait. But I also know what I feel. And I know I don't want to waste another day not telling you." Celine's heart was racing so fast she thought it might burst. "Kelly, I love you. I'm in love with you. And I know it's complicated with work and the power dynamics and 1,000 other things. But I don't care. I love you." The words hung in the air, enormous and true. "I love you too," Celine whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I love you so much it terrifies me." Kelly kissed her then, deep and slow and full of promises neither of them had words for yet. But love, as beautiful as it was, came with complications. The office gossip intensified when people realized Celine and Kelly were actually together. HR required them to disclose their relationship. Kelly recused himself from any decisions regarding Celine's performance reviews or promotions, assigning her supervision to Thomas Chen instead. Some people were supportive. Thomas clapped Kelly on the back and said, "About time you found someone worth fighting for." Others were less kind. Maya Richardson, the intern who'd accused Celine, had been rehired at a different firm. But she made sure to comment on social media about career advancement through romance when news of Celine and Kelly's relationship went semi-public within industry circles. Celine learned to ignore it, or tried to, but some nights, lying awake in Kelly's arms, she wondered if people would ever see her as more than the woman who'd helped the CEO's father and ended up with the CEO. "You're thinking too loud," Kelly murmured one night, pulling her closer. "I can hear your thoughts from here. Do you ever regret it?" "Us? Never. Not once. Not for a second. People think I didn't earn my position. People who don't matter. People who don't know you. Anyone who actually works with you knows you're brilliant." He tilted her chin up, making her meet his eyes. "You're the one who identified the flaw in the Meridian proposal that saved us $3 million. You're the one whose strategy for the Hanover acquisition became the template for all our future deals. That wasn't me. That was all you." "I know. Logically, I know. But nothing. Celine Johnson, you earned every single thing you have. And anyone who says otherwise is just jealous they don't have what we have. Which is love. Real, honest, complicated, beautiful love. The kind that doesn't come from convenience or strategy. The kind that comes from seeing someone's soul and wanting to build a life with it." Celine kissed him then, pouring everything she couldn't articulate into that kiss. Gratitude and love and fear and hope all tangled together. 6 months into their relationship, Kelly brought her home to meet extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins who looked at her with curiosity and, in some cases, skepticism. But Denise Johnson was there too, invited by Charles, wearing her Sunday best and holding her head high. Celine watched her mother charm Kelly's family with stories and warmth, watched her hold her own in rooms she'd never expected to enter. "Your mama's something special," Kelly's Aunt Eleanor said. "Raised you right." "She did," Celine agreed, watching her mother laugh with Charles over something silly. "She really did." That night, driving home, Kelly reached over and laced his fingers through Celine's. "My family loves you. Your family is kind." "No, my family sees what I see. Someone extraordinary. Someone worth keeping." Celine looked at this man who'd somehow become her entire future. "Kelly Milton, what are we doing? Building something that matters. Together." And for the first time since that day at the elevator, Celine let herself believe it might actually last. 1 year. That's how long it took from the day Celine knelt beside a fallen stranger to the day Kelly Milton knelt before her with a ring. He proposed at the elevator bay. The same marble floor where Charles had collapsed. The same spot where Celine's life had shattered and rebuilt itself into something unrecognizable. It was evening, the office mostly empty. Celine thought they were leaving for dinner. Instead, Kelly led her to that exact spot, and Celine's breath caught when she saw what he'd done. Roses. Red ones. Dozens of them, arranged in a circle around the elevator doors. "Kelly, what?" He turned to her, his eyes bright with emotion. 1 year ago, you knelt on this floor. You chose compassion over self-preservation. You chose character over convenience. And you changed my life. He took her hands, holding them gently. "This is where I first heard about you. where my father called you his angel, where I saw the security footage and realized the universe had sent me exactly what I needed, exactly when I needed it. Kelly knelt down, right there on the marble floor, and pulled out a small velvet box. Celine Marie Johnson, you have made me a better man, a better son, a better human. You've shown me what matters. And what matters is this: building a life based on love and character and doing the right thing even when it's hard. He opened the box. The ring caught the light, simple and beautiful, exactly Celine's style. Will you marry me? Celine couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. This was real. This was her life. 1 year ago she'd been accused, humiliated, and destroyed. Now she was standing in the same spot, being asked to become someone's forever. Yes, she whispered. Then louder. Yes. Yes, of course yes. Kelly slid the ring on her finger, stood, and kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. When they finally pulled apart, Charles Milton stepped out from behind a pillar, tears streaming down his face, holding a camera. Got it, he said, laughing through his tears. Got the whole thing. Celine laughed, crying, hugging Charles while Kelly wrapped his arms around both of them. You orchestrated this? She asked Charles. My son's been planning this for 2 months. I had to make sure someone captured it. The wedding 3 months later was intimate. 50 people at a beautiful venue overlooking Lake Michigan. Celine wore a dress her mother had saved for a year to help pay for, simple and elegant. Nothing like the red gown, but somehow perfect. Kelly wore a suit that made him look like he'd stepped out of a dream. And when Celine walked down the aisle on her mother's arm, past her father's empty chair with his photo on the seat, Kelly's eyes filled with tears. The ceremony was brief but meaningful. They wrote their own vows. Kelly went first. Celine, you taught me that the best things in life come from the moments when we choose to be human. I promise to always choose you, to always run toward you, not away, to build a life that honors the values your father taught you, to love you in every season, through every challenge. You saved my father. But more than that, you saved me. Celine's turn. Kelly, 1 year ago I kept a promise to my father. I helped someone who needed help. I had no idea that promise would lead me here. To you, to us. I promised to keep being exactly who I am. To never let success change my character. To love you not for what you can give me, but for who you are. And to remember that the best things in life start with compassion. Charles gave a toast at the reception that left everyone in tears. I collapsed on a marble floor 1 year ago. I thought I was dying, but what I was actually doing was falling into a different kind of future. One where my son found love, where a young woman showed the world that character still matters, where 2 people proved that doing the right thing, even when it's hard, even when you're accused, even when the whole world is against you, is always worth it. He raised his glass. To Celine and Kelly, to love built on character, to futures born from compassion, to prove that sometimes the worst moments of our lives are actually doorways to the best ones. Denise Johnson gave a toast too, her voice strong and proud. My daughter lost her father at 5 years old, but Marcus Johnson left her something more valuable than money or status. He left her values. He taught her to help people. And tonight, I know he's looking down, so proud he could burst. Baby girl, you kept your promise. And look what it gave you. The reception lasted late into the night. Dancing and laughter and joy that felt earned. Hard-won. Real. At midnight, Kelly and Celine slipped away to the balcony overlooking the lake. The city sparkled below them. Music drifted from inside. Mrs. Milton, Kelly said, testing out the name. Weird, right? Celine laughed. Perfect, actually. He pulled her close. So what do we do now? Now we live, we build. We remember where we came from and we honor it by staying true to who we are. Together, always. They stood there, holding each other, two people who'd found love in the most unexpected place, in the most unexpected way. And somewhere, in a cemetery on the south side, next to a simple headstone that read Marcus Johnson, beloved father, good man, the wind rustled through the trees like a whisper of pride. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness matters and character counts, then you need to subscribe to this channel. We bring you stories like this, stories that restore your faith in humanity. Every single week. Don't miss the next one. 5 years later, Celine Milton, because she kept her married name professionally even though some thought she should use her maiden name to establish separate credibility, stood in front of a room full of young interns. The annual orientation at Northbridge Capital. A room full of hopeful faces, some confident, some terrified, all of them wondering if they had what it took. 5 years ago, Celine began, I stood where you're standing. Well, not exactly here. I was in the lobby, by the elevators, wearing a red dress when everyone else wore black suits. I felt out of place. I felt different. I felt like maybe I'd made a mistake. She paused, letting them see her, really see her. That morning, an elderly man collapsed right in front of me, and I made a choice. I ran to help him, while everyone else recorded on their phones, while people accused me of causing his fall, while my whole world was crumbling. I stayed with him. I held his hand. I called 911. I did what my father taught me was right. You could hear a pin drop in the room. That man was Charles Milton. And that choice, that moment of compassion when everyone else chose content, changed my life. It brought me here. It brought me love. It brought me everything. Celine walked to the front of the stage, looking at each in turn. Here's what I want you to know. Your credentials got you in this door. Your GPA, your school, your resume. But what keeps you here, what makes you successful, what actually matters in the long run, is character. Is choosing compassion when it's inconvenient. Is helping people even when no one's watching. It's staying true to who you are even when the world tries to make you someone else. She smiled, thinking of Kelly waiting in his office upstairs, thinking of Charles who still visited every week, thinking of her mother who now worked as a consultant for the diversity initiative Celine had founded. Some of you will become analysts. Some will become associates. Some might even become executives. But all of you, every single one of you, have the opportunity to be something more important. To be good humans. To be people who run toward trouble instead of away from it. To be the kind of person who changes lives by simply caring. Celine looked at her notes, then back at the interns. That day at the elevator, I thought my life was over. Turns out it was just beginning. Your life is beginning right now in this moment. Make it count. Make it matter. Make it yours. The applause was thunderous. After the presentation, Kelly met her in the hallway. That was beautiful. It was true. He kissed her forehead. Come on. Dad's waiting. We're having lunch at that place your mom loves. The one with the incredible pasta? The very same. As they walked through Northbridge Capital, past offices and conference rooms and the life they'd built together, Celine caught her reflection in a window. Professional, successful, happy, but more importantly, still herself. Still the girl who'd kneel on marble floors to help strangers. Still her father's daughter. And that, more than anything else, was the real victory. So here's what I want to know from you. Where are you watching this from? Drop your location in the comments. Are you in New York, London, Toronto, Houston, Los Angeles, Jamaica, the Philippines? I want to know where this story reached you. And more importantly, tell me this. Have you ever helped someone and been accused or judged for it? Have you ever done the right thing even when it was hard? Share your story in the comments. Let's create a community of people who believe that character still matters, that compassion still counts, that doing the right thing is always worth it. Because Celine's story isn't just one story. It's a reminder, a call back to values that sometimes feel forgotten in our modern world. A proof that good things happen to good people even if it takes time, even if the journey is hard. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button. If it reminded you of someone you know, share it with them. If it made you believe in humanity again, even just a little, then subscribe to this channel because we bring you stories like this every single week. Stories about real people making real choices that change real lives. Stories that matter. Stories like Celine's. Now remember, you never know when a simple act of kindness will change your entire life, or someone else's. Choose compassion, choose character, choose to be the person who runs toward people who need help. Because that choice, that single moment of deciding to be human when everyone else is being something less, that's where magic happens. That's where love is born. That's where legacies begin. Thank you for staying with us through Celine's journey. Now go out there and write your own. Until tomorrow, stay blessed.